You, brother.
I'm going to refresh my coffee. I'll be right back. You guys behave.
He's going
Positive,
for it and immediately leaves.
I'm going to refresh
That's
my
nice.
coffee. I'll be right back. You guys
po-
behave.
positive vision is a very good thing. It's just a very good thing. I mean, nobody wants to be a delusional optimist, but to be a delusional pessimist is a lot worse than being a
Yeah.
delusional optimist. Positive vision leads to confidence, leads to leadership. Positive vision, not just bravado, not just posing,
Yeah.
uh, but the real deal Hollifield. Positive vision. Yeah,
Yeah.
baby, you like knitting? Let me help you with that. Knitting or whatever it is, gardening,
Yeah.
raising babies, whatever.
Yeah. Kind of, and yeah, like the real thing is always better than, like
Then
you said, the fake thing. If
yeah,
you have, yeah, just give it off, and then yeah, you don't need to fake it.
you don't have to fake it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to desire confidence is a good thing. And
Yeah.
one
Fake it
way
till you
to,
make it, baby.
yeah, okay, yeah. Fake being an optimist. I like that.
Fake it till you make it.
Yep.
How have you
Oh,
been, brother Tommy?
I beg your pardon?
How have you been, brother?
Thank you. Well, uh, I've got some toothache issues, but I'm okay. I'm hanging tight,
That's
you know.
good.
Good amount of joy
That's
on
right.
average. Dreaming large.
That's good.
Yeah. How about you? What's cracking?
Not much. Just been working heaps. But I just woke up a couple hours ago. It's just past midnight here in Australia. So
Wow.
I'm just chilling.
What has God been teaching you about lately?
It's a good question. I like when you ask that. I don't know. I've just been listening to Paul's letters. Just been taking them in, but just trusting God. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot really, but I trust God. And yeah, love. Love is the answer. How about you?
Um, that's a good question. What has God been teaching me lately? Um, God, I hate to say it, but I will. Acceptance.
Yeah.
Been teaching me about contentment and uh, and about current opportunities. I get mesmerized by opportunities that are not seasonal, that aren't for me this season. Last season's opportunities. Oh, I pine about those. But I
Like
think God's,
missed opportunities,
well,
like things
not,
you.
I guess, yeah. The
Mm,
opportunities of last week,
yeah.
I seem to be being prompted to tend the opportunities of this day, of this season, and yeah.
That's a good one.
And the future, how the future, oh, the opportunities of the future. Well, the future may come, maybe it will. And to be over focused on the past or over focused on the future doesn't seem like tidy mental hygiene for me. To be
Mm.
focused on the opportunities of this day seems, where the money is.
I,
or where
Yeah,
the
well,
prophet is.
actually, I like what Paul says in Philippians, where he says he's forgetting about all those things behind him. I think
And
that's,
pressing on.
yeah, that's for some reason that's been stuck in my head, just that verse particularly. How you going, David?
How's it going? I was just gonna ask you, the accent, is that a UK accent?
Nah, Australian.
Australian. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
to Americans though, it's the same, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah. No, to me, I thought you were from the UK. Yeah. What part of Australia are you from?
I'm from Adelaide, which is South
Oh,
South Australia. Yeah.
which is where the
You know,
main neighbours. Do you remember Neighbours? Are you old enough to remember Neighbours?
yeah, I remember Neighbours.
Yeah.
That's filmed here, right? I wasn't it?
Yeah, Adelaide. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's actually if you Google City of Churches, comes up with Adelaide.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a cool city. What about you? Your whereabouts in
UK. Yeah, Manchester. Yeah.
North.
North. Yeah, the poor part,
Yeah, cool.
the rainy, drizzly part, the miserable part. So
That's
what?
cool.
Let's cut to the chase. What are your theological? What does always ask? Yeah, what are you, theist, atheist? What are you
No,
doing?
I'm not atheist. I believe in God.
Yeah,
And I believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and I believe he died and rose again on the third day. But I believe in, like Ace. I believe in the salvation of all.
yeah,
I'm not. I used to be like, I grew up I grew up Christian, but I don't associate with religion anymore. It may sound like I do because I believe in God, but I just,
yeah.
I believe that God loves everyone. God is love. So,
But what God is like an abstract, like love. You obviously believe in the. And sorry, I'm not. We just met. I
no,
don't want to push your balls already, but so you believe that God is love, but God is also Yahweh and Jesus.
yeah. Well, I think Jesus was the Son of God. I don't think he was God himself.
Yeah,
I just think I think God is God. I think God is the creator of all, and I think his essence is love, right? And and I think he had a son called Jesus, and I think he died and rose from the dead, and
but,
that's yeah.
yeah, but when you say you were brought up Christian,
Yeah.
that makes it sound like you changed your position, but it doesn't seem like you have changed your position too much.
Well,
You
I
still
think
believe
if
you're still a Christian, presumably.
I guess, but I don't go to a church, and I think from all the Christians I know, they believe in hell, and they believe, in things like free will and
Yeah.
which I don't. I just don't believe. I think from my own sort of study and just getting to know scripture and stuff, I saw for myself that God is the savior of all, and Christians they don't believe that. They believe he's the savior of just a few, and I think that's like a slap in the face to God's character. That.
No,
So
all that means is that you're a particular type of Christian You are a Christian that believes that God saves all. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's
I'm
what
just a
that means.
I just believe. Like I would just say I'm a believer. Like I don't have a denomination or a label, I guess. Um,
So you're an anti-labelist, which is a label.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about the virgin birth? Do you hold belief in the virgin birth of our Lord Jesus Christ?
Yeah. Why not? I mean, God's done crazier things than that.
That's a fun question. What is the craziest thing that God has done? Like the thing that, not crazy, but the thing that you can't explain the most. God, you all believe in God. So, what is the thing in your mind? Why would God do that?
My toothache. Isn't that
I think
sad? Isn't that sad?
It's very self-centered, but that's fine.
Yeah. Narcissistic, is it? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, um,
I
Dieter.
was saying
Sorry to interrupt.
creating Tommy. That was the craziest thing you did.
Yeah, why would you do such a thing?
I don't know. I would say raising his son from the dead. That's the ultimate. So if he
But
did that, why not? Why is a virgin birth like? Why not?
but,
I mean,
but
when you have faith in that, it's like with God, all things are possible. Like I just think creation itself is pretty crazy.
so do you believe in an all-knowing God that knows everything that's going to happen in the future?
Yeah,
Right.
I
So
mean,
saying the craziest thing he did was raising his son from the dead. Like from the beginning of time, he would have known that he was going to raise his son from the dead. That makes it not crazy. That makes it actually necessary. It's the
yeah,
opposite of crazy.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was purpose from the beginning. But I mean, from our point of view, it's you know, it's a from our point of view, it's
It's
wild,
crazy.
but yeah,
Yeah. Right. So from someone living in time, from everyone else except God, it is crazy. But from God's
mm,
point of view, it makes sense.
yeah,
Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh.
How about yourself, David? What's your
I'm I'm
faith?
I'm an atheist, but I'm gonna have to take a minute to
Yeah, I,
that one. I'll be back in a sec.
I, yeah. I mean, I was atheist for a long time, and
Yeah.
it was actually religion that I would say made me atheist. I'm not joking
That's great.
because because when the school that I went to, you would have to go to chapel like every couple of days, and you know I was like, nah, this isn't for me. But then I realized that God is a lot better than I was taught. So
Was it the law? Was it the law that made you stumble?
it was sorry, was it the law that made me what?
Stumble.
No, it was the representatives of the Christian religion
Oh,
that made me stumble, I
the
would say.
youth pastors. The youth
Yeah.
pastors. Oh,
I don't want to sound like judgmental or anything, but I was you know, they would say one thing and then do another, they would say, oh, you know, God is loving, but if you don't love him back, you're gonna go to hell. And to me, that just didn't jive with that.
That sounds like the law.
But actually, that's a good point. Just because something doesn't jive with you, or something doesn't make sense, that makes absolutely no difference whatsoever as to whether it's actually true or not, does it? Like,
No,
if God's law makes no sense to you, it's either God's law or it isn't. Whether it makes
yeah.
sense to you makes no difference whatsoever. So to choose your theology based on what makes sense to you makes no sense at all. It's just if there is a God and he does exist and he made laws, whether those laws make sense to you makes no difference whatsoever.
Well, that's true, and God still does things I don't like, but
Now that's
I've learned to accept
understatement
it.
of the week.
Yeah. So, but
So there is one God, there is one law, there is one, and yet we have 100,000 different denominations of Christianity, and only one could be right.
I'm afraid there's a few more than that.
There will be one person in heaven, is what I'm saying. All Christians, even if God does exist, there'll only be one person in heaven because he'll have happened to have chosen the right religion. It's
well, I'll put it to you this way. Like growing when I was sorry.
yeah,
Well,
no,
like when I was a child, like when I was a young boy, like I just knew that God was love and he loved everyone. And it was so I inherently knew, and I think everyone does. I think every kid knows like that God is love and he loves everyone. But like it was religion that distorted my perspective of God, right? And that's what turned me away from knowing God. And like when I came back into the faith, I still believed in hell and all that stuff. So I believed that God existed, but I was like mad at him. But it was
right. So to go back to my point, that there is one God, he has certain laws. Everyone disagrees on those laws. There are 100. Was it no 1,000, 10,000,
600,000, over 600,000.
600,000, 100,000 different denominations of Christians. Only one can be right. So there will be one person in heaven. All the rest will be burning in hell.
But David, there's one faith. There may be many
Yeah.
Christianities, as many as there are human beings walking the earth, maybe 7.5 billion. But there's one faith. Do you approve, Ace? Do you believe that there's one faith? Many Christianities, but one faith.
We're all groping for God, that's for sure.
Okay, well, that's better than nothing.
But that's only within Christianity. You say like 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Yep.
Most of them aren't Christians. It's like a narrow match. Like say 51% of them are Christians.
Okay,
and 99% of those Christians are wrong. So if you there will be two people in heaven.
Well, it might not be a matter of being right or wrong. It may be a matter of depth of understanding. Who among us has perfect understanding of reality, of God, of Jesus, of the law? Who has perfect understanding? It may not be a matter of being perfectly right.
It doesn't matter. I'm saying sorry.
The faith is about Jesus.
But
Something about Jesus.
But I'm saying if there is such a small percentage of people who are right about God, and they're the only people that Heaven doesn't matter, does it?
Well,
If there were only 4 people there out of 8 billion people that are on the planet at the moment, and all the people that have died and aren't on the planet, the 4 people that end up in heaven, they don't really fucking matter, do they?
What do you
Well,
What do you
it's not
mean they
based-
don't matter?
And I'm just saying, if you take all the people that have ever lived, and due to your theologies and your denominations,
I heard what you said. I'm asking why they don't matter.
no, they would matter in their own way, but they matter like on a scale, like 8 billion versus 4. On a scale, the 4 doesn't fucking matter, does it?
I don't understand how you're concluding that these people that make it to heaven don't matter. That's my question.
I'm not saying they don't matter.
You are saying they don't matter.
I'm saying on a ratio, like everyone who has ever existed, every human being that has ever existed, if 4 people end up in fucking heaven, then those 4 people really don't fucking matter.
Again, how are you concluding they don't matter? I understand your argument. I just don't understand your conclusion. You're saying they don't matter.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm wrong. They matter very little. Like 0.00000000000.1%.
I'm asking what is your degree of measurement here? What is the value you're attaching to them mattering? Are you saying it's a small amount of people based on the number of people that make it? And then and you're saying they don't matter? Is that what you're actually saying? That the percentage is too small?
Yeah. I'm saying that as far as Christians go, like you all have your different religions and your different denominations and your different. So, like, it turns out that 4 people end up in heaven.
So do you think that, let me ask you this, do you think that truth exists?
Wow, that's a weird one.
That's a weird question. You've been talking for 40 years and you're now going to ponder whether truth exists?
No, just in the conversation, that's a weird left turn. Well,
if truth exists is weird in no conversation.
No, sorry, I was asking about where the fuck did that come from?
Because I'm going to get to a point when you answer that. That's where. Like, anyway, I'll assume that you assume that truth exists. Is it ever dependent on how many people?
No. Let's go back to the argument, the thing that we were actually fucking talking about.
I'm still talking about that.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 4 people think that they have the truth, right? That they make it to heaven.
Yeah.
Right.
4 people.
So I was just
out of the probably hundreds of billions of people that have ever existed, Homo sapiens that ever existed on the planet. 4 people make it in heaven, and then you just left switch into what was your question?
Well, you're obviously not in the state of mind to have this conversation, are you?
Yeah, I am. You're not.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great argument in itself, but I was merely stating that if there's a truth that exists, that's what I was trying to get to. The 4 people would have that truth, right? The 4 people that get into heaven will obviously have some truth that the other billions of people don't have. And what the point I'm trying to make is, does it ever matter how many people know the truth? If the truth exists. And if the truth doesn't exist, what the hell are we doing talking about? What are we talking about?
It doesn't matter whether 4 people know it, whether 1 person knows it, whether everyone knows it. It doesn't matter. The truth is the truth.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many people existed. If there were no people in the world, if minds didn't exist, the truth would still be the truth. It doesn't fucking matter either way.
Right. Objective truth. So whatever the argument is about the low percentage of people getting into heaven, it actually doesn't have anything to do with what is true or what isn't true, does it? Because it could be true that those 4 people do have the truth, even though that's a low percentage.
Yeah, there could be 4 people that have the truth.
So
Jesus said Jesus said, I am the truth.
Yeah, but then after Jesus said that, 10 billion different denominations of Christianity interpreted it in their own way.
I guess
It means, are you saved or are you not saved?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter if there is the truth. It doesn't matter how. That's what I'm getting at. If the truth does exist,
Yeah.
which we all talk like it does, we're having coherent conversations for the most part, like something true and objective exists. Then it never is dependent on how many people actually get it
No.
or how many people know it. Right? It's never.
There could be 0 people in heaven. Out of all the religions in the world, they could all be wrong. Out of all
we say everyone matters. We say everyone matters, and everyone's going to get that.
0. Heaven could not exist. There could be 0 people in heaven.
Well, how are you getting to heaven can't exist with 0 people?
Well, it wouldn't exist, obviously, because
what makes you say that it needs people in it?
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying if God exists who didn't create a heaven, then there wouldn't be a heaven.
Oh, you added that he didn't create a heaven. Okay.
So
it makes it harder when you make up your own scriptures. You know that, right?
Sorry, I'll be right back.
Jesus is the truth.
Is that D for drunk?
There are many ways to be sober.
Hello, JG.
JG.
Are you guys as happy to see me as I am you?
I hope so.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Suddenly, the world has turned into a musical.
I noticed that.
JG.
I can't get enough of you.
This is lies.
Hooked on JG.
I saw Wildheart and I just had to pop in.
Is that who triggered you?
No, I'm good.
Oh, good.
How's the vertigo, brother? You feeling better?
Oh, yeah. You remember that? I am. I really only experienced it that one time. Well, it came on slightly another time, but I'm not going to count that. But yeah, it really hasn't happened again. So thanks.
Okay, welcome, boys and girls. We're 27 minutes into this hootenanny. And we're supposed to be talking about the journey of faith. And I guess we were, because the journey of faith is the thing that David Grant is on right now. He's on a journey of faith. And if I can capture your attention for a moment, I want to tell you some great truth that I have personally discovered. And I don't think that you can argue with me. And if you try, you're going to stumble. And so here's the great truth. Modern Christianity, the stuff we know, from churches to denominations to buildings with stained glass windows, modern Christianity has hijacked many phrases from the Bible and given it its own connotations and meanings. And so I think it's a great truth that most of us do not know the Bible or the lingo which those first century saints used concerning the New Testament, or the lingo from the Old Testament either, because modern Christianity has hijacked a lot of phrases. They've given them their own little nuances, and we bought into it. We didn't have a choice. We were just being spoon-fed, some type of ideas about faith in God and the promise and the hope that we have, And today I wanted to even explore the idea that faith, they've hijacked the word faith. Because if you listen to regular Christians, they say that you must have faith or else you're going to hell. Well, what exactly must this faith be? You must believe or you're going to hell. What exactly must you believe? They don't answer that question. And we're not, when we're early into our journey of faith through the Christian world, we're not even smart enough to ask that question. Believe what? What must you believe? What must you believe? And so they won't answer that question, not with any practical sense anyway. But if you read between the lines of regular old evangelical fundamentalist lingo, they kind of say that you must believe that hell is, the supreme threat. And then you must believe that Christ saved you. So you must believe it in that order. Because if you don't believe there is a hell, well, then, they can't steer you down the road of gaslighting and manipulation as easy. So if you don't believe there is a hell, well, then they don't even question. They question your motivation as to whether or not you truly believe. I don't believe that there is an eternal conscious punishment awaiting the poor slob sinner. Well, if you don't believe that, then you're not really saved, they'll say. What? But I do believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins and rose from the dead. That doesn't matter. You've got to believe in hell first. So they've hijacked all kinds of phrases from the Bible. The word salvation has been hijacked. The word faith has been hijacked. The word walk has been hijacked. Even the word prayer has been hijacked, and they give you a spin on the words. The modern day fundamentalist evangelical spin. And so when you actually crack open the scriptures for yourself, you start scratching your head because you see that the New Testament writers, they had a different idea when they use these various words. And of course, the word eternal is not even in the Bible, but yet they've hijacked that to create some god-awful mythology. And so,
Ace, when did this conspiracy start? And do you think Satan is running it?
it probably started just before Paul died, because he prophesied that it would, it had started or it would get really worse. And so I think, well, maybe we can say it started even before Jesus showed up, because there was the religion of man has always been around ever since Adam said, I don't believe God. I think I can get away with this stuff. I can eat the fruit, the forbidden fruit, and not suffer the consequences that God promised. So it started in the garden. How about that?
Yeah, maybe.
The hijacking of terms, because the serpent said, you won't really die. So he began the gaslighting process. Don't believe God. Believe me, you won't die. You won't really die.
Yeah. You know that verse you were looking at yesterday, especially the believers?
Yeah.
Do you think that ties into what the evangelicals are trying to profess? I know that you would say they're doing it wrong, but do you think that has something to do with it? There's something special for believers and believing certain things.
Yes, believers, according to the revelation that we get from Paul, believers do get a special deal. I used to do some marketing work for furniture companies, furniture stores, and they would have a customer list, right, of the 3,000 people that had bought furniture from them over the years. And they would send them, some of them would send them a letter, all of these guys a letter saying, we're having a special sale for you. We're going to start our sale at 9:00 on Friday morning. It'll go all weekend, but you guys can come in at 7:00 on Friday morning, 2 hours early, and get a special deal.
Yeah, early entry discount.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking to Gabe about that yesterday. It tends, I was saying, since I've been talking to you, you have some ideas that I hadn't heard before, where it's not so much the idea of a punishment or a consequence, but that you get left out of I don't know, certain favorable positions. The judgment is going to leave you out of certain favorable positions versus condemnation.
Right.
That's come up, the fourth eon kingdom reign and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting. But that's all on that.
Okay, so on yesterday's show, I started this journey of faith thinking aloud with you. And toward the end of yesterday's show, we read Hebrews chapter 11, which says, which has what, 20, 30 verses all about faith. Let me back up here and see how many verses is in that chapter. 40. There's 40 verses in Hebrews chapter 11. And it's all about faith. And it uses the word faith at least 40 times in there, right? And so my point in this little chat right now is that modern day Christianity, modern day thinking, we've hijacked a lot of words from the Bible and we've given them their own new spin on things that the first century writers did not have. Now, check this out. What exactly is faith? When you ask the evangelical fundamentalists, what is faith? Oh, well, that you must believe Christ rose from the dead. But first, you got to read between the lines. First, you must believe that there's a hell and that you must avoid hell by saying the sinner's prayer and so forth and so on. But if you would ask, what is faith and what exactly must you believe? And then go to Hebrews chapter 11 and read the whole dang chapter, 40 verses long. I'm telling you, it goes over my head. What is this writer talking about? Because he goes on and on about by faith Moses did this, by faith Enoch did that, by faith Seth did this, by faith Abraham did that. At this moment in time, I don't see any great parallel between all of their stories, and yet their stories are that by faith they did this and that. There's even a verse 31, that talks about a prostitute that by faith she did this and that and the other thing. Whoa. What do I know about faith if the faith chapter includes the story of a hooker? What do I know about faith? I don't know. I have been infected.
So sorry, yes. Would the sensible thing to do at that point is to not use faith? Just believe in things that you can demonstrate. Don't use faith.
Oh my gosh, are you still asking people to demonstrate God?
No, and I'm just saying that Ace is just.
Well, you used that word, so I did want to ask you that since you've been back.
Ace has just spent a lot of time describing why faith is useless. I'm just saying.
No, he hasn't.
I'm not saying faith is
point,
useless.
At that point, just give up faith.
I think you're missing it.
I'm not saying faith is useless. I'm saying that I bet we don't truly understand what faith is.
Right. Well, it's useless.
But
then.
we can't understand.
Sorry. If we don't understand what faith is, then it's
yeah, that's another great conclusion of yours, Mr. Grant. If you don't understand it, it's useless. Wonderful.
It's no. There is no use to it. If you don't understand what something is or how it works or what it does, then it is practically useless.
Saying the utility of it. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on mute, buddy. Okay, so we have a description in Hebrews chapter 11 that by faith, many things happened. And it describes all of these things, including the life and behavior, or not all the whole life, but the life and behavior of this prostitute, that she pleased God by faith into some degree or another. So what do we know about faith? Never in chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews does it say that you must say the sinner's prayer and believe in eternal hell, and then you can believe that you were saved by Christ's work on the cross, which essentially, according to fundamentalist evangelical Christianity, is God's plan B. I'm betting, after thinking about it, that faith is actually everything. we live and move and breathe by faith, whether we know it or not, because the very opening.
I agree with that. That's what I think too. It's inescapable in everything you're doing and everything Wildheart's saying today. We can trace it back to a degree of faith. He's using and utilizing metaphysics that he can't fully understand and comprehend and account for.
Right. So you're saying that we don't understand what faith is. We can't describe it.
We have faith in faith is what we're saying.
We don't know how it works, but let's use it.
Faith in faith. That's
no
right.
That makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
The point I'm going to make to you is that you use it too.
Stop talking over me. Shut the fuck up.
I'm not intimidated. I'm not intimidated by you, brother. You're not making sense, and you're using faith. And if you're not going to realize that, too bad for you. Your arguments are poor.
All right, so check this out. This is the faith chapter. And tell me if you see anything like what the evangelical fundamentalists tell us today. Do you see that you have to pray the sinner's prayer, that without faith you're going to go to hell, or anything like that? And we'll read all 40 verses. And just look how expansive this notion of faith is compared to our modern day understanding of faith. Now, faith is an assumption. Wow. Doesn't this sound like Van Tillian stuff, JG? Because doesn't he argue with something about presumption and assumption and something or another?
Well, yes, it's in there somewhere. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, faith is an assumption of what is being expected, a conviction concerning matters which are not being observed. For in this, the elders were testified to. By faith, we are apprehending the eons to adjust to a declaration of God, so that what is being observed has not come out of what is appearing. And allow me, since I've got the microphone at the moment, to say, holy smoke, the very first thing this guy has to say about faith is that the time periods are under the control of God. By faith, we are apprehending the eons to adjust. Wow.
Well,
never mind the stories we're about to read about Abel, Enoch, Moses, Abraham. Never mind those guys. Let's get right to the point and talk about time itself. Man, whoever wrote this letter to the Hebrews, I'm thinking he's got it going on.
Yeah. You earlier said faith is inescapable. I think that's a great claim, because I can identify with that. And what's interesting about that is the atheist typically says they can't be certain of anything, right? That's typically the dogma of the atheistic position. So they need faith in everything, since they can't be certain of everything. What is it that they're using in order to move forward in every position that they take? They're taking a leap, right? A leap of faith, since they're uncertain. So the irony of the atheist position is they have to utilize more faith. It's wonderful.
Yeah, good point. Now, faith is an assumption of what is being expected, a conviction concerning matters which are not being observed. For in this, the elders were testified to. By faith, we are apprehending the eons to adjust to a declaration of God, so that what is being observed has not come out of what is appearing. So can we say from verse 3, our little cynical, sarcastic phrase, appearance is everything, reality is nothing. In other words, reality is actually everything. Appearance is not what it's cracked up to be. By faith, we are apprehending the great time periods down through the creation's history to adjust to a declaration of God, so that what is being observed has not come out of what is appearing. Now we're going to get down to the personal levels and look at all the different varieties of things that are going on, and they're each introduced by faith. And so I'm concluding that I myself, I don't know exactly what faith is. I don't think that we can stuff faith into a formula, into a box, and say exactly what faith is. I'm thinking faith is everything. By faith, Abel offers to God a more of a sacrifice than Cain. So Cain offered a sacrifice that was acceptable, but it wasn't as acceptable. Both men, could we say, were operating by faith. Cain offered his sacrifice, Abel offered his sacrifice. But Abel gets the accolades here for the moment. And remember, God protected Cain. If you know the story, God put a mark on him so nobody would kill him. That was something very loving and kind to do. So I'm thinking that I don't know exactly what faith is, but I know it's not the formula that you get when you hang out over at Antioch Baptist Church in Canton, Ohio. By faith, Abel offers to God more of a sacrifice than Cain, through which he was testified to that he is just at God's testifying to his approach presence. Through it dying, he is still speaking. By faith, Enoch was transferred so as not to be acquainted with death, and was not found, because God transfers him. For before his transference, he is attested to having pleased God well. Now, apart from faith, it is impossible to be well-pleasing to God, for he who is coming to God must believe that he is, and is becoming, a rewarder of those who are seeking him out. Well, there's kind of a definition of faith. So can we say from this comment on faith that faith is everything? By faith, it is impossible to be well-pleasing to God. And we know from other passages that God will give a round of applause to everyone. So maybe we can say that everyone is operating to some degree by faith, whether they know it or not.
Absolutely.
For he who is coming to God must believe that he is, and is becoming, a rewarder of those who are seeking him out. By faith, Noah, being apprised concerning that which is not yet being observed, being pious, constructs an ark for the salvation of his house, through which he condemns the world, and became an enjoyer of the allotment of the righteousness which accords with faith. By faith, Abraham, being called, obeys, coming out into the place which he was about to obtain, and enjoys. I got that wrong. By faith, Abraham, being called, obeys, coming out into the place which he was about to obtain, to enjoy as an allotment, and came out, not versed in where he is coming, not versed in where he is coming. There we go. There's something we can make a note of regarding faith. It means you step out and you don't know exactly what the hell you're doing, because Abraham was not sure what he was doing. He was not versed in where he is coming. By faith, he sojourns in the land of promise, as in an alien land, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the joint enjoyers of the allotment of the same promise. For he waited for a city having foundation, whose artificer and architect is God. Now, check this out. By faith, Sarah, now I don't know if you know anything about Sarah, but she laughed at Abraham when Abraham said, God promised me we're going to have a boy. She laughed. She was not known for her faith, but yet here she is included in the story of faith. This is not a story about Sarah. It's not a story about Abraham. It's not a story about Isaac and Jacob and Enoch. This is the story of faith that we are learning here. By faith, Sarah herself also obtained power for the disruption of seed, and brought forth beyond the period of her prime, since she deems the promiser faithful. Remember, I just told you, at first she laughed. And then apparently God gave her the faith to believe the matter, because she deems the promiser, which is God, she deems the promiser faithful. So she moved from doubt to faith in some form of a journey there. Verse 12, wherefore also were begotten by one, and these of one who is deadened. Let me back up and get it right. By faith, Sarah herself also obtained power for the disruption of seed, and brought forth beyond the period of her prime, since she deems the promiser faithful. Wherefore also were begotten by one, and these of one who is deadened, according as the constellation of the heaven in multitude, and as the sand beside the sea shore is innumerable. By faith died all these, not being requited with the promises. Isn't that an interesting phrase? They died by faith. In faith died all of these. What is this? It's worth underlining.
In faith died all of these. Is that saying people or
All of these people,
ideas?
In faith, all of these people that we're speaking of died, not being requited with the promises, but perceiving them ahead and saluting the promises and avowing that they are strangers and expatriates on the earth. For those who are saying such things are disclosing that they are seeking for a country of their own. And if indeed they remembered that from which they came out, they might have occasion to go back. In other words, they forgot all the stuff in the past. Instead of remembering them with fondness, they just forgot about all the stuff in the past and marched forward to seeking a country of their own. It's a metaphor. It's a figure of speech. Yet now, verse 16, yet now they are craving a better, that is, a celestial. Wherefore God is not ashamed of them to be invoked as their God, for he makes ready for them a city. By faith, Abraham, when undergoing trial, has offered Isaac, and he who receives the promises offered the only begotten, he to whom it was spoken that in Isaac shall your seed be called, reckon that God is able to be rousing him from among the dead also, whence he recovers him in a parable also. By faith, Isaac blesses Jacob and Esau concerning that which is impending also. Okay, so I think we can see that this faith business is looking forward to something else that we can't see. I'm getting that feeling, the interpretive feeling. By faith, Isaac blesses Jacob and Esau concerning that which is impending also. By faith, Jacob, when dying, blesses each of the sons of Joseph and worships leaning on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph at his decease remembers concerning the exodus of the sons of Israel and gives directions concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, being born, was hid 3 months by his fathers because they perceived that the little boy was handsome and they were not afraid of the mandate of the king. By faith, Moses, becoming great, disowns the term son of Pharaoh's daughter, preferring rather to be maltreated with the people of God than preferring rather to be maltreated with the people of God than have a temporary enjoyment of sin, deeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he looked away to the reward. Well, isn't this interesting? that the reproach of Christ is what Moses experienced, this is looking away to the reward. This is looking down the road and seeing the vision of what God is doing. Not all of the hassle that you are going through at the moment. It is looking down the road. Verse 27, by faith, Moses left Egypt, not being afraid of the fury of the king, for he is staunch as seeing the invisible. By faith, he has the Passover made and the pouring of the blood against the door jambs, lest the exterminator of the firstborn may come into contact with them. By faith, they crossed the Red Sea as through dry land, attempting which the Egyptians were swallowed up. By faith, the walls of Jericho fall, being surrounded on 7 days. By faith, Rahab the prostitute perished not with the stubborn, receiving the spies with peace. And what shall I, and what still may I be saying? For the time will be lacking for me to relate concerning Gideon, Barak, Samson, Japheth, David, besides Samuel also, and the prophets, who through faith subdue kingdoms, work righteousness, happen upon promises, bar the mouths of lions, quench the power of fire, fled from the edge of the sword, were invigorated from infirmity, became strong in battle, rout the camps of aliens. Women obtained their dead by resurrection. Now others are flogged, not anticipating the deliverance that they may be happening upon a better resurrection. Yet others got a trial of scoffings and scourgings. Yet still more of bonds and jail. They are stoned, they are sawn, they are tried, they died, they're murdered by the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and in goatskins, in want, afflicted, maltreated. All of this is the story of faith. This sounds horrible. Are you sure you want a life of faith? Let's see if you can escape it. Of whom the world was not worthy, straying in the wilderness and mountains and caves and holes in the earth. And these all, being testified to through faith, are not requited with the promise of God concerning us. The looking forward is to something better, that apart from us, they may not be perfected. Do you get it?
What are you going to do today, Ace, without faith?
Exactly. Every step we take is a step of faith, whether we know it's a step of faith or not.
I like what Jesus said about faith. Do you remember because like we're always taught we need to muster up all this faith, right? But do you remember what the disciples said when they said, Lord, give us more faith?
Yeah.
He said, like, if only you had faith the size of a mustard seed. It was almost like he's saying to him, if only you had less faith, right?
Wow.
Because I mean, we try to muster it all up, but it comes from God.
So all of these people we just read about were not evangelical fundamentalists. Their journeys and experiences was wild as anything. And yet the author tells us that these were on a journey of faith. They were looking forward to something better, to a city, to a land, to a promise. In other words, God is not finished with creation yet. Hold on tight. The ride is getting wild. Are you excited, JG?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking a little bit about what Dieter said. Were you looking at that, like, man is trying to implement his own idea of faith through ego, and if he could sort of retract back to just a mustard seed of what God gives him, he could grow from there.
Well, I just
More,
think it's more about just relax. Like
yeah,
you don't need to muster up all this faith within yourself. You know, it comes from God. Like just relax. Like I sort of view, I don't know what you guys think, but I sort of view faith similar to like trust, right? Like you're just
right,
trusting God with something.
right. It tends to be more of a word of trusting what you have no prior evidence to trust. It tends to be defined as such, but the words are fairly synonymous. Yes.
And what about this? Isaiah 45:7 says God created evil as well as good. And didn't we just read a bunch of evil that God's people went through? And
Yeah.
good. They received the good as well as the evil from God. So what exactly is faith? I'm thinking it's a bigger concept than what we've been led on to believe.
Do you believe that our faith? What do you think the difference between belief and faith is? Or do you think it's the same?
One's
Like
a
this.
noun, one's a verb. Same.
Well, sometimes faith can be applied to something you have no past relation with or evidence of. Like you say, you trust. It tends to be used in a way like you trust your friend because you've seen them day after day, and you build a trust, even though it's still faith because you never really know what's going to happen. But having faith in an immaterial creator is different than having trust in a friend. I hear conversations like that. People try to make distinctions between trust and faith, but I think really they're the same because we never really know what's going to happen or what someone is going to do. No matter how many times they've done something in the past, it doesn't ever reflect the certainty of what they're going to do in the future.
Hey, what do you got on certainty, JG? Certainty and faith and belief and trust. What do you got on certainty?
Yeah, I think that the certainty requires faith. That's how we attain certainty. When you get the atheist saying we can't be certain of anything, I think faith is the necessary component that can bring us to certainty. And of course, you're going to get arguments and pushback against that theory, but that's where I am on that currently. And I try to show people that they can be certain of things through the apophatic method. Like when I ask silly questions, people who are logicians, right? People who rely and worship logic, say, like a theist like Richard Madsen. He says universe and logic first, and then God came along and started putting things together, and he's bound to logic because the universe is primary, and he puts God into a secondary category. That's not the creator of logic, but something that he's bound to. So I ask questions about certainty. I say, okay, well, can you be certain that you're not the God of the Bible? And you say, well, I don't know. I might be. I might be the God of. And I'm like, come on, really? Is that really what you think? Well, I don't know. I can't be certain. So then I take it a step further and say, okay, can you be the God of the Bible and not the God of the Bible simultaneously? To try to press on their idea of certainty and logic at the same time. And then if they say, well, maybe that's possible, well, then they're showing that they want to hold to this dogma. They can't be certain about anything to the point where they're willing to break their own dogma in the laws of logic. So I try to show certainty by what they can't be. They can't be the God of the Bible and not the God of the Bible at the same time. It's a strange exercise. I don't know if that made sense to you, but I find it interesting to ask people who profess that they can't be certain of anything.
So what was Rahab the prostitute certain of?
You know, I don't recall that particular story? You want to refresh me?
Well, I'm a little foggy on it as well. Apparently, a couple of Israel spies went into the city, and she hosted them. She put them up and hid them so they could spy out how strong the city was before.
This is Joshua.
Yeah, that
Okay,
time.
yeah.
She
Right.
hosted them and believed in their story. She saw more of a future in their story.
Yeah, she's being traitorous to a degree, right? Because she thought
Yeah,
they had the better angle or edge or whatever. Yeah,
they were of God.
sure.
But the folks
Yeah,
in her city were what? Pure knuckleheads?
well, yeah, that's quite that's quite a leap of faith there, right? Turning against your own people because you have faith in this these spies, right? That's a big leap.
Yeah, so in the whole story of Hebrews 11, I don't see much of a parallel except that each one believed in something that was going to happen in the future that just couldn't be seen yet. It was over the hill. All they could see was the hill, but there's something over that hill. That's what faith is about. You get something better, let me know.
Yeah, I mean that idea works. You can never know. You can never know. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen the past repeat. You're never going to know what's over that hill for certain. And even our starting points of how we know things and how we operate, they start with faith. Right? The very fundamental ideas that we use in thought and how we think about things, they require faith. Like these alleged laws that we use. Oh, we use these laws, these classical laws of logic, right? That when I wake up, I am still me, and I'm not the opposite of me, or I'm not in contradiction. These fundamental laws are immaterial, and we just assume them. And to assume them and move into the future, it inevitably requires faith. And the justification of why we can utilize these immaterial laws and have faith in them comes from a creator. And that's what the atheist leaves out, is they leave out that justification. They just assume them, that they exist, and they still utilize them, and they profess they don't have faith in them. And they have to have faith in them in order to use them. So like you said, it's all about faith. It starts with faith, and it moves into the future with faith.
So
It's inescapable.
Right. So if you're listening in, just joined us, I think I'm arguing that you have faith whether you know it or not. And every step you take is a step of faith. And the passage we just read said, without faith, it's impossible to please God. But I'm thinking that we could also take the opposite approach, that everybody will be pleased by God because God is the justifier of all, Romans 5:18. And all will receive an applause from God. What's that? 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Everyone will receive an applause from God. So God will be pleased with his creation when he's finally finished with his creation. And so by faith, we cannot please God. And therefore, whether we know it or not, we have faith and we are moving in faith. We are living in faith. And I'm quite sure that all of the characters that we just read about did not know that they would be listed in a great ledger of faith, that this ledger of faith that we call Hebrews chapter 11. So who have we got here? We got the prophets. I didn't highlight the prophets. Let me highlight them. The prophets. Okay, we got we got Abel, Enoch. We got Cain mentioned. He's an honorable mention. I'll walk on character. We got Cain, Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, and she was a doubter, Isaac and Jacob. Sarah was a doubter, but she's listed here as a woman of faith. Wow. Amazing what God can do. If Sarah the doubter can be listed in the certificate of faith, Romans 11, there's hope for you, boys and girls. And we got a bunch of people who died. We got Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau, Joseph. And of course, Joseph's brothers might be included in the story because they're an important part, but they're not listed here specifically. But then he does go on to say, I can't list them all. We got Moses, and Moses' fathers are listed here. By his fathers. Now, isn't that a lovely figure of speech? The people who rescued Moses from the river are called his fathers. We got Pharaoh's daughter. She gets an honorable mention. That every one of these people so far, the assessment is they enjoyed or they were maltreated because they were looking forward to the reproach of Christ as greater riches. Oh, the firstborn of Israel gets an honorable mention because the firstborn of Egypt, they suffered. Here's Rahab the prostitute, Gideon, Barak, Samson, Japheth, David, Samuel, the prophets again. None of these guys have much of a similarity in story, except that they looked forward to what God had promised and that God was going to finish his creation and bring us to the next phase of things. And for Israel, the next phase would be the kingdom reign.
Yeah, I was thinking Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. They were mentionable with faith, right?
They're mentionable, but they're not mentioned.
They got thrown in the furnace for resisting. Well, yeah. What is this that you're reading here?
Hebrews chapter 11.
Okay.
How about that centurion that was commended by our Lord Jesus?
Hmm.
And how about that woman that snuck up behind Jesus and touched the hem of his garment or his tassel?
Yeah, and the thief on the cross as well, right?
Yeah. Hadn't thought of him. But how about that centurion? How about when Jesus chided the disciples when the boat was sinking? Chided those disciples.
A lot of faith honorable mentions throughout the Bible.
Oh, how about Jesus' faith? He's not even listed here. Of course, he was a man of faith. In fact, the righteousness of God is revealed through Christ's faith. And it's only hinted at through the faith of the people listed in this chapter.
Yeah, Job. Job's not mentioned here either, is he?
Wow, that's right. I'll be right back. You guys have fun.
Well, Tommy, I'm thankful for Wild Heart this morning. You know why?
Tell me why.
I feel that he brought Ace and I together this morning.
Oh, good.
Did you happen to notice this?
Um, yeah. I mean, were you guys apart or at odds or
I don't know.
uh
I don't know. It just seems like we have a nice connection today. So
okay.
I'll give some
Yeah,
thanks to Wild Heart instead of just making it a negative interaction. You know what I mean?
yeah. I thought about why I got triggered to come into your room the other night. And I surmised that I got triggered because of Law of Faith, who
Oh,
was
he
in
was
the side chat. He was in the side chat.
Copperhead at that
Yeah,
time.
Copperhead. Yeah, him.
Oh yeah.
Because that's just what I surmised.
It's
Compelled me to come in.
um.
It
Well, yeah. It
wasn't.
seems like you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You seem like you were siding with him on something. I can't remember, or you were helping him out with something. I don't know if you're saying that you were triggered by him because, as I remember it seemed like you were aligned with him. Am I mistaken?
Well, I use trigger in a positive context.
Uh,
What was my motivation for coming in? Because I was reluctant. I experienced reluctance to come in. I don't want to come in for nothing, and I don't want to come in to be annoying for no reason. That's boring.
you want some strategy?
Yeah, some strategic goal, to have
Yeah,
a clearly envisioned positive strategic goal, what I might call a gracious goal.
yeah. Who else came in there? Tom came in there maybe shortly after. I think we were talking about. I think we were talking about the comments being erased, and I think Copperhead was kind of taken up for you a little bit, like you saying it's it's your right to do that and so forth. I think I saw that, but I don't know if I don't know what he was saying before he came in. I guess is what I'll say to that. I'm not sure what you were saying when you were triggered by him. What were you talking about?
Well, I was triggered to champion his interest or
What was
to,
that at that time?
yeah. I can't recall specifically.
Well,
Maybe something as vague as to affirm him or to maybe edify him in some way. Some, you know, uh, yeah,
hmm.
something very simple.
All
Maybe
right.
maybe I saw a way to encourage Snakehead. I mean Copperhead.
Snakehead. The serpent in the comments. Well, I'm just gonna go out and ahead and say it. You sound like you got law on your mind today, based on the comments. So what say you? And ladies and gentlemen, he takes the fifth. Perhaps a wise choice. Tommy, are you still there? Am I still here? Can anybody hear me? I guess Tommy ducked out, and Ace can't plug him in. So, actually, looks like I've got to go too anyway. So I guess that kind of works out. Grace and peace to you all. Have a good day. Thanks, Ace. Good discussion today.
Where did everyone go? All right, let's see what we got going here, baby. Now, faith is an assumption of what is being expected, a conviction concerning matters which are not being observed. For in this, the elders were testified to. By faith, we are apprehending the eons to adjust to a declaration of God, so that what is being observed has not come out of what is appearing. By faith, Abel offers to God more of a sacrifice than Cain, through which he was testified to that he is just at God's testifying to his approach presence, and through it, dying, he is still speaking. By faith, Enoch was transferred so as not to be acquainted with death, and was not found, because God transfers him, and before his transference, he is attested to have pleased God well. Now, apart from faith, it is impossible to be well pleasing to God, for he who is coming to God must believe that he is and is becoming a rewarder of those who are seeking him out. Now, by faith, Noah, being apprised concerning that which is not yet being observed, being pious, constructs an ark for the salvation of his house, through which he condemns the world, and became an enjoyer of the allotment of the righteousness which accords with faith. By faith, Abraham, being called, obeys, coming out into the place which he was about to obtain to enjoy as an allotment, and came out, not versed in where he is coming. And by faith he sojourns in the land of promise, as in an alien land, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the joint enjoyers of the allotment of the same promise. For he waited for a city having foundation, whose artificer and architect is God. By faith, Sarah also herself obtained power for the disruption of seed, and brought forth beyond the period of her prime, since she deems the promiser faithful. Wherefore also were begotten by one, and these of one who is deadened, according to the constellation of the heavens in multitude, and as the sand beside the seashore is innumerable. In faith died all these, not being requited with the promises, but perceiving them ahead, and saluting them, and avowing that they were strangers and expatriates on the earth. For those who are saying such things are disclosing that they are seeking for a country of their own. Now, if indeed they remembered that from which they came out, they might have had occasion to go back. Yet now they are craving a better, that is, a celestial. Wherefore God is not ashamed of them to be invoked as their God, for he makes ready for them a city. By faith, Abraham, when undergoing trial, has offered Isaac, and he who receives the promise offered the only begotten. He to whom it was spoken that in Isaac shall your seed be called, reckoned that God is able to be rousing him from among the dead also, whence he recovers him in a parable also. By faith, Isaac blesses Jacob and Esau concerning that which is impending also. By faith, Jacob, when dying, blesses each of the sons of Joseph, and worships leaning on the top of a staff. By faith, Joseph, at his decease, remembers concerning the exodus of the sons of Israel, giving directions concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, being born, was hid 3 months by his fathers, because they perceived that the little boy was handsome, and they were not afraid of the mandate of the king. By faith, Moses, becoming great, disowns the term son of Pharaoh's daughter, preferring rather to be maltreated with the people of God rather than to have the temporary enjoyment of sin, deeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasure of Egypt. For he looked away to the reward. And by faith he left Egypt, not being afraid of the fury of the king. For he is staunch as seeing the invisible. For he is staunch as seeing the invisible. By faith he has the Passover made ready, and the pouring of blood against the door jambs, lest the exterminator of the firstborn may come into contact with them. By faith they crossed the Red Sea as through dry land, attempting which the Egyptians were swallowed up. By faith the walls of Jericho, being surrounded on 7 days, by faith Rahab the prostitute perished not with the stubborn, receiving the spies with peace. And what may we be saying? For the time will be lacking for me to relate concerning Gideon, Barak, Samson, Japheth, David, besides Samuel also, and the prophets, who went through faith, who through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, happened upon promises, bar the mouth of lions, quenched the power of fire, fled from the edge of the sword, were invigorated from infirmity, became strong in battle, rout the camps of aliens. Women obtained their dead by resurrection. Now others are flogged, not anticipating deliverance, that they may be happening upon a better resurrection. Others got a trial of scoffings and scourgings, yet more of bonds and jail. They are stoned, they are sawn, they are tried, they murdered, they are tried, they died, and murdered by the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, in want, afflicted, maltreated, of whom the world was not worthy, straying in the wilderness and mountains and caves and holes of the earth, and these all being testified to through faith are not acquainted with the promises of God concerning us, are not requited. They are not requited with the promises of God concerning us. The looking forward is to something better, that apart from us, they may not be perfected. All right, thanks for joining me, boys and girls. I got to scoot. That was Hebrews chapter 11. Spend some time with it. Give me a thumbs up, leave some comments, and grace to you. Bye for now.